In this video, NASA and the USGS map minerals to better understand the Earth's composition and climate change. Climate change affects landslides in unexpected ways. The UK defies climate change warnings by issuing new oil and gas licenses, and much more. Stay tuned, we promise it will be worth your while. Let's get to it. Let's start with NASA and USGS map minerals to understand Earth makeup and climate change. With the use of advanced airborne imaging, NASA and the United States Geological Survey, USGS, are going to map portions of the southwest of the United States for critical minerals. Hyperspectral data from hundreds of wavelengths of reflected light can provide new information about the surface and atmosphere of Earth in order to help scientists understand the geology and biology of the Earth, as well as the effects of climate change on Earth. The research project goes by the name Geological Earth Mapping Experiment, or GEM-X, and will make use of NASA's Airborne Visible Infrared Imaging Spectrometer, AV-IRIS, and Hyperspectral Thermal Emission Spectrometer (HITES) instruments, which are flown on NASA's ER-2 and Gulfstream V aircraft. Aside from providing additional details on mineral maps already made by EMET, GEM-X will give NASA crucial high-resolution data at regional scales to support development of the Surface Biology and Geology mission, which is part of NASA's new Earth System Observatory. Both missions combined will answer questions about the fluxes of carbon, water, nutrients, and energy within and between ecosystems, and the atmosphere, the ocean, and Earth. The data we are gathering will be foundational, not only for critical minerals research, but also for a wide variety of other scientific applications, from natural hazard mitigation to ecosystem restoration, says USGS Director David Applegate. Next up, climate extremes affect landslides in an unexpected way. All around the world, climate change is causing more volatile precipitation patterns, to the point that even the Netherlands, a country known for its abundance of water, has been dealing with extreme droughts. Very dry stretches have been punctuated by storms that dump huge amounts of rain or snow in a relatively short amount of time. A new study in California has revealed that the same conditions have the potential to affect slow-moving landslides in highly unpredictable ways. The expectation was that slow-moving landslides, which only move a few inches every year in the south of California, where it's very dry, would behave differently than the slow-moving landslides in rainy Northern California when exposed to heavy precipitation and drought conditions. But as it turns out, that's not the case. The study showed that, in reality, landslides in wetter and drier regions of California showed similar sensitivity to precipitation extremes, moving faster and further downhill, on average, during rainy periods, compared to periods marked by drought. It was already known that slow-moving landslides in wetter parts of California stay pretty saturated throughout the year, but they didn't expect to find that both the waterlogged and dry landslides speed up and move farther downhill during wet periods, compared to dry periods. A better understanding of how this works is needed to help build a warning system, as well as influence future planning of development and infrastructure. Following, the United Kingdom is defying climate change warnings and issues new oil and gas licensing. The UK's decision clashes with what international climate change scientists say, which is that fossil fuel projects should be closed down, not expanded. According to experts, no new projects can be initiated if global warming temperature rises are to be kept below 1.5 degrees Celsius. Both the International Energy Agency, IEA, and the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change, IPCC, have expressed these views. Even the UK's own government's own advisors on climate change have said that the best way to relieve customers of the pressure of rising energy prices was to stop the use of fossil fuels rather than drill for more. Despite that, the UK will be offering almost 900 locations for exploration, with as many as 100 licenses set to be awarded. Licenses will be made available for 898 sectors of the North Sea. Jacob Rees-Mogg, the UK's business secretary, claims that the new exploration will boost energy security and support skilled jobs, and supporters insist that they are compatible with the government's legal commitment to reach zero net greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. However, the average time between discovery and first production is almost 5 years. Even if this gap is shrinking, the only one who will benefit straight away is the government. The consumer won't be relieved of anything in the coming winter, or any winter soon enough, as the pressure is already on the consumer right now. Hold up, we've got more to come. Next, the Nord Stream gas leak could be the worst leak in history. New Zealand wants to start taxing the burps of cows, and melting glaciers make mountain tourism more dangerous. Make sure to watch until the end of the video so you don't miss out. Now let's continue. First up, the Nord Stream gas leak could be the worst leak in history. It's clear that the 700-meter wide pool of bubbling water in in the Baltic Sea, caused by the rupture of the Nord Stream gas pipelines, is pointing towards a climate disaster, and scientists are scrambling to try and work out just how much methane, one of the biggest contributors to greenhouse gases, has escaped into the atmosphere. They fear that the leak could be one of the worst released in history. But in order to gather accurate readings, a plane would probably have to take measurements from the air. However, scientists on social media have endeavored to do some quick calculations, and the results are depressing. The director of energy strategy at the Environmental Defense Fund, Andrew Baxter, has estimated that around 115,000 metric tons of methane has escaped, which is the equivalent of about 9.6 million metric tons of carbon dioxide. This has the same climate impact as the emissions from 2 million gasoline cars over the course of a year. Greenpeace's European Union unit has an even more dire estimation, putting the potentially leaked amount as high as 30 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. That would make it one of the worst methane leaks in recorded history. The largest known release was in the United States in 2015, at a gas storage facility in Allison Canyon. Over the course of several months, an estimated 97,100 metric tons of methane were emitted. To put that into contrast, the Nord Stream leaks happened over the course of mere hours. Next, New Zealand wants to put taxes on cow burps. The government of New Zealand has proposed putting a tax on the greenhouse gases that farm animals make from burping and urinating as part of a plan to tackle climate change. If pushed through, New Zealand would become the first country to have such a tax, and farmers would be able to recoup the costs by charging more for climate-friendly products. But farmers were not amused and were quick to condemn the plan. Lawmakers from the opposition said that the plan is backwards and would actually increase worldwide emissions by moving farming to other countries, where food is made in a much less efficient way, not to mention transportation. Worse, New Zealand's farming industry is vital to its economy, and dairy products are the nation's biggest export earner. New Zealand has only 5 million human inhabitants, but there are about 10 million beef and dairy cattle and 26 million sheep, which is why about half of New Zealand's gas emissions come from farmers. Federated Farmers President Andrew Hoggart says that farmers have been working with the government for over 2 years in an attempt to construct a plan to reduce emissions that won't decrease food production. But the new plan will force farmers to sell their farms so fast you won't even hear the dogs barking on the back of the ute pickup truck as they drive off. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern promised that all the collected money from the levy would be put back into the industry. And now, melting glaciers make mountain tourism more dangerous. According to ecologists, the lakes in the Canadian Rockies are losing their famous turquoise luster, and the glaciers are being forced to recede at an alarming rate due to climate change. One of the consequences this year has been the dismantlement of the historic Abbott Pass Hut in Yoho National Park, says Park Canada. And as Canada's climate changes, the mountain tourism industry is also forced to change. Temperatures are rising ever so slightly, but surely the snow lines are changing, just like the freezing levels. All of this also has an impact on how much snow accumulates on the glaciers during winter, which in turn affects things like skiing and backcountry skiing. But the effects aren't just noticeable during winter. Alpine climbing and glacier treks have been affected by glacier recession during summer as well, as unstable broken terrain is laid bare, which is tricky to navigate and can even be dangerous. As a result, guides have changed the times of year they take tourists to certain places, while other places have been deemed too dangerous to enter at all. There is a 100% increased danger for rockfall and loose rocks with glacial recession, says Stevens, Assistant Technical Director of the Association of Canadian Mountain Guides in Canmore, Alberta. Mountainous areas across the world are feeling the same pain, with glaciers in Europe's Alps becoming more unstable as well. And that's it. Do you think the mapping of minerals will be of help in understanding climate change? Let us know in the comments what you think, and thanks for watching.